Hey there, it's David Duford at davidduford.com, where I help insurance agents like you succeed in selling insurance. And today, I'm going to tell you my story, and keep it as brief as possible, about how I succeeded, then failed out of the insurance business. The purpose of me putting this video together is really to give you an honest perspective on how the insurance business really is, and what happens and what causes someone who's newer in the business, even if somebody who's been successful, to struggle and ultimately to face failure. Now, fast forward through the failure, I eventually got back into the business, and now I've been in it for, probably 6 years now since that's happened. But I think my story is really important to share. I've done it before in a couple past videos, and I always like to make sure the newer people to my channel know this story, because there's lessons that can be learned about what mistakes that Dave here did that you don't need to repeat. So let's jump right in. So what was my story? What's the lead up to this? So I got into the insurance business, specifically final expense, when my personal training business floundered and was failing. I was a part of the Great Recession, like a lot of business owners. I was young at the time. I lost a lot of business. I knew I had to go do something else. Tried to find jobs. Nobody was hiring. And the last thing I'd ever think I would do is look for a job selling insurance. So I stumbled across final expense. It seemed like a great opportunity. It was really just a mixture of a easy product to sell, a simple process, all based really on hard work. You didn't need to know technical knowledge, and it was a paid lead-based system, no cold calling required. So I was definitely sold. So I got out there, followed what exactly I was told to do without question, and lo and behold, I actually got results. I was happy. So this went on for about 6 months. I'd have better months than others sometimes. Eventually I switched marketing organizations because the first one was doing a poor job generating leads for me, and I got better commissions elsewhere. And ultimately what I found happening is, after close to the end of my first year, I started getting the idea in my head that I knew more about this business than I really did. I had a big background in my personal training business, marketing for advertising. I was really good at it. I got a lot of business through it. And so I had this kind of, ego. So I started to modify the lead program that was working just fine to try to eliminate some of the negative aspects of it, such as seeing deadbeats and people who just weren't interested. They wanted free insurance. So I created a lead piece. I went out to the market and I did okay with it, but no better than the actual vanilla generic lead that I was accustomed to. And when combined with that, I had an issue with my marketing organization getting me appropriate leads. The combination of both of those decisions to mess with what worked led me to a point where, after a year, I only had $90 in my account. I had a 1 or 2 year old son and a wife who was just absolutely pissed off and ready for me to go get a real job. And at that point, very rarely in my life to ever do this, I gave in. I did what my wife told me to do. I went and got a job in corporate America working for Aramark selling uniforms, thinking, well, I'm going to make my transition into the corporate world. There's a great career if I stick to it and do what I'm supposed to do. I hate final expense anyway. It just wasn't for me. 6 weeks of that, working for somebody else, holy crap, I realized I was wrong. Final expense ain't all that bad. The idea of waiting around working for somebody else to have career advancements and to be responsible for that, and dealing with bosses and products that I don't believe in, don't like, but I'm forced to sell because I'm desperate to make a living, that is not a way to live. So I really reversed my decision after 4 or 6 weeks of working and basically schemed a way to get back into the insurance business. And I did it within a year, left the old corporate job and never looked back. And that's been 5 years, really 6 years ago. Man, I can't believe what time flies by, guys, when you hit 30, I swear. So that's the main thing. That's the main story about how it happened for me. So I want to kind of go over, I think, some different aspects of why I failed, to help you understand how you can succeed. Again, there's always lessons in failure. You know, I say failure, but the truth is failure is just an opportunity to learn, to improve. And it's easier now that time has passed and there's no financial pressures like there was then. I'm glad I experienced it. It was a really important point in my life to develop myself, because I didn't have that perspective of that kind of failure, at least in the context of selling. And it was an opportunity to learn a lesson, because that's what you really have to do. You realize a lot of these top producers out there have gone through similar failure stories. And the only real difference between them and somebody else who fails is they listen to their results and they don't repeat them. Really important lesson. But let's kind of mention a few things here I think are responsible for the reasons I failed. So first of all, I would say leads were a big deal. Again, the kind of overarching subject here is that the business of final expense, or much less anything, is pretty predictable. It's not like we're walking around like trying to figure out what works. If you sell final expense, or you're in another line of business where there's been evidence of sustained success across the nation and different markets, it's likely the same level of success will apply to you if you apply the system. Again, nothing's guaranteed, but we want the chances to be successful, and you should just do what you're supposed to be doing. And I think that's a big problem, is that I got away from doing what worked, and I started experimenting, and I played with the primary aspect of this business, which is lead generation, and it ended up causing me to fail out. So I changed with the age ranges. That screwed up my vendor and what they were supposed to do. I changed the lead piece entirely, thought I was smarter than the lead system. And so I got away from what worked, and that costed me tremendously. So my recommendation for you guys out there, and it's gonna, especially for you guys, if you guys are out there, if you're what I would call the type that is has shiny object syndrome, you see this great new program that's awesome, and you think it's the best thing, and you change everything up to do it, you're gonna continuously fail. And the thing is that everything kind of works if you just do it, and can do it consistently. But the realization, another realization I had too, is that just because you're following a system that works doesn't mean you're not going to experience short-term defeat. You're not going to experience frustration. You see, in a final expense lead generation system, we teach agents, and this is true really of any insurance lead generation system, we teach agents to set blind appointments, to go in and talk shop when we get into the home. So we don't actually sell until we're in a face-to-face presentation. We don't sell over the phone. So what that leads you to is that you will run appointments from people who generally aren't interested, who thought it was free, who thought it was something else, or just time wasters. And it will frustrate you. But there's no way around this approach. Sure, you can pre-qualify, but then that introduces all these other unforeseen variables. You may miss out on opportunities because you incorrectly qualified them. Again, you can develop that stuff with time, but usually the best way to do this initially, and many top producers do it continuously this way, is just to go see people and worry about selling them when you get there. But the top producers understand that you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have experiences where people don't buy. That's normal. And the problem I had was I thought, well, how can I avoid that? You know, how can I just go talk to people who buy from me? And that detracted from me entirely. Last thing I'll mention here, this is less of a problem for me, but it is a problem for a lot of people, and kind of relates back to that shiny object syndrome, is you've got to remember that that focus really makes a big difference, and focusing on one product makes a tremendous difference. If you start thinking you're going to sell Medicare supplements, final expense, annuity, and Medicare supplement, mortgage protection all at the same time, it's likely you're going to fail. You need to focus on one product and think about that one product tremendously as you get out into the field, especially if you're brand new. Don't worry about trying to distract yourself and put yourself in a position where you think you got to know everything, because you just won't. You're going to fail out a lot faster because you'll be frustrated, you won't get anywhere, and it'll be an overall frustrating experience. So I hope this video helped you. I did a video, a much longer format you want to look for. It says why I failed the final expense business. It's about 40 minutes long. I go into more detail. I just want to kind of give you an introductory view about my experience in this business. I do recruit agents. If you like to work for me and leverage my wisdom and experience, you can go to davidduford.com and then click the link at the top, and it will tell you more about how the insurance agency works and how it works working with me. Like the video if you haven't, subscribe as well, and make sure that you go to the website to check out more at davidduford.com. Take care, guys. Bye.